Welcome back. Great to have you with me. Here is Bloodlines, Chupacabra, Chapter 4, Part 1. It Seeks. Thank you, folks. As I explained, you can retreat to your tents. And please, no more bickering. This is supposed to be a relaxing night, and a story, that's all this, is just a tale my granddad would tell over and over again, says Larry, looking rather irritated. Okay, now where was I? Oh yes, the rain had started to die down. My great aunt had been woken up by noises outside her window. She got out of bed to take a look outside, but seeing nothing, she woke my great uncles up and told them about the eerie growling and moaning outside. My grandfather passed it off as just weather. Wind doesn't growl like that. She told him it was sinister, like an animal on the hunt. My grandmother had woken up along with my dad and aunts. Most of my family were born and stayed on that farm for generations, but now the entire hose was awake and anxious. The young one and the older kids had been kept upstairs, where my grandmother was keeping them calm, when more scratching noise could be heard upstairs and on the roof of the house. Sandra, frightened, lets out a yelp. Oh my! Sandra and Cal now sat taking the story more serious. Laura was still sitting in disbelief, rolling her eyes every time Larry went on. Laura, being the ultimate skeptic, says, "You really expect us to believe this crap? Come on." "Whatever," she muttered with her arms crossed. "Please, this would be more believable if the animal were a wolf or bear, but some fairy tale creature from the Black Lagoon or whatever followed these old guys home. And what? Oh, I'm so scared. A bunch of baloney." Sandra, irate, yells at Laura. "What the literal fuck did I just say? Shut the fuck up and go to bed, cranky-ass religious nut. That's what you are." "Just shut up, would you? Listen, negative ninny. I want to hear the end of this, and that hopefully we can all get some sleep, because someone is clearly cranky." Cal by now has had enough. This was supposed to be a relaxing trip. Sandra looks at Cal and nods in agreement. "Thank you." Shoots another narrowed-eyed glance of annoyance back at Laura, who is sitting red-faced and clearly upset with the rest of the group. Laura, in disgust, lets put a sigh. "Fine. Let him mess with your heads, fools." Larry chimes in with a calm tone. "It was only the start of a nightmare for them. Look, I didn't take it all that serious either at first, but I am telling you the truth. There are things out there you cannot deny." Sandra looks Larry straight in the eye and says, "True. What about species that were once thought didn't exist, but now we know so much about them? Mountain gorillas and fish that were thought to be as extinct as the dinosaurs." Cal reaches over and puts his hand on Sandra's shoulder with a reassuring tap. "Just ignore her." My grandfather and his brothers all took turns over the next few days, keeping watching night and day, with no one able to sleep, wondering and hoping if they would catch this thing. I absolutely, to this day, shake the feeling that it was slowly sizing up its new prey. My family consistently claimed that the scratching noises grew louder every night. Larry's eyes started to grow a bit wider as he kept rolling on with every word he spoke. Before he could continue to tell the rest of the story, something in the air changed. While the group argued they didn't have time to notice that stalking the camp now let itself be heard even closer than before, right behind Laura, almost it seemed. Laura, the disbeliever, now on the edge of her seat, hair standing on end, began to panic. Her pupils dilated, and she was starting to sweat. Laura has sensed a presence and can't help herself as she squeaks out a soft mutter. "Something is moving around behind me, guys. I'm not joking or poking fun." Cal figures it is probably just a coyote. Sandra, her eyes wide with the hair standing up on the back of her neck, proclaims with a slight tease, "That's not a coyote. What the fuck is it? It's going to get us." "Ooh, it's the Chupacabra." Laura, not amused. "Oh, ha ha, real funny, but I am serious. I hear something." Larry interjects. "I have been trying to tell you, we are in the middle of the infamous Nevada Triangle, and there are things that will turn your hair white." Laura was so focused on Larry that she hadn't noticed that Sandra had gotten up to put the bottle of wine into a trash bag, then slowly creeping up behind Laura with her best ghostly tone tries to get a rise out of her. "Hey Laura, it's behind me, over there, I swear it is." With a serious look on her face, she goes on, "Over there, I can hear it. It's pacing just behind me. I can sense it, and I can hear its feet shuffling." Okay, that's it. You know what? Never mind you all. I'm sorry, but I think I'm just going to crawl into my tent. I've had enough of this foolishness. Good night. As Laura retreated into her tent, the rest of the group still around the fire, as the Larry continued in her absence with the rest of the story, Sandra lets out a laugh as she returns to her chair. Good riddance. I mean, what is her problem anyway? I happen to be enjoying this story. Some of us just know how to not be so freaking uptight. Cal snorts as he doesn't really find it mature of Sandra, but no less funny. Off her meds, I guess, eh? Who needs her? What a bitch. Larry sighs. I'll try to hurry and finish so that we can all get some rest as well. My apologies. Larry. It's okay, says Sandra. Who needs a sourpuss like Laura around to ruin it for the rest of us anyways? Well, folks, says Larry, there really isn't much left to tell at this point. My family hadn't slept in a week. The noises kept getting louder. Then one day it just stopped, or so they thought. It was just after Easter. The scratching and moaning noises had begun causing the household no rest again, as its evil presence continued to give them no solace. My great-uncle had reported that the chickens were all without their heads and 2 baby goats had gone missing. The group felt uneasy as the noises off in the dark continued, though, further than they had been when Laura had sat with them. Larry continues. The end of the second week had ended with my grandfather finding the doors all scratched along the front and back, and along the bedroom windows, of just that of his brothers and himself, as none were found of the rest of the family. Sandra's eyes go wide. It was singling them out, and toying with your family. They should not have messed with that carcass. Oh my God! Larry exclaims that it's still out there. They never caught it or ever saw what was killing the livestock, but they did find an odd footprint and some hairs left by it. Sandra, her eyes staring straight into Larry's, curious, though clearly rattled. But did your grandfather ever say exactly what he thought it was? I mean, mutated coyote, perhaps? Sandra, unbeknownst to the rest, actually believed this story. It had too much depth to be false and made up. I do find it a bit odd that they never even saw it as they kept watch, or after. It had to be the same animal even. I know coyotes do not hunt in packs. But this a pretty far out there story, though plausible, I suppose, says Cal. Cal himself was still on the skeptic fence, but as Larry went on, it became more apparent that maybe Larry had told the story so many times that he was just well rehearsed. No coyote that had been haunting them, and it continued for years, even after the initial event, but only stopped after my grandfather and 3 brothers had all passed away, Mr. Newitt. I swear on my own life, says Larry. Sandra gasps. Holy shit, I just can't imagine having something be that mad enough to bother me my whole life. That thing had to be pure evil, a demon I say. Laura appeared once again with a final complaint, as she had been eavesdropping and could hear everything they had saying about her as she had retreated into her tent earlier, but now they were being too loud for her to even try to fall asleep. She walks over to the 3 of them holding her holy Bible in her left hand. I am a God-fearing woman, and I say it was the devil himself that had followed them and his specter haunting them for having stumbled upon something they obviously made in blasphemy against God. And making up a story is just as bad. I wish that's I'd never come on this trip. Sandra and Cal overlapping as they started in on telling Laura off for being not only so rude to their host and storyteller, but for being an outright killjoy. Laura raises her voice at Sandra, calling her out for her immature attitude, calling her a jerk. Yeah, and I heard everything you 2 said about me, and I don't care. I'm turning the other cheek. And good night. I am so done with this. Sandra, not being one to back down just because Laura can't take a little heat, shouts back at the Bible-thumping bitch with anger. Oh yeah, says Sandra. Ask us if we are bothered, Laura, FYI. We're not. I came here to relax, not be berated by a nut who can't relax her asshole enough and just have fun. Cal, on the other hand, just sitting back while 2 went at it. Damn, whoa, she went there, he says after Sandra had finished. Laura, upset and enraged, stormed back to her tent, zipping it up, and not another word came from her for the rest of the night. Sandra chuffs. Oh, just go, you are no fun at all anyway. Why did you even come on this trip? Geez, I bet you weren't too popular in school either. As soon as Laura retreated back into her tent, the Cal and Sandra, relieved, urged Larry on. That was the last Laura would even bother to try and reason with Sandra. She'd never admit to anyone that she cried herself to sleep that night, while the rest of them would sit by the firelight. Laura had felt alone and isolated, wallowing in her own misery. Maybe perhaps her emotions, still reeling from her breakup, had played a factor in her reactions, but it was too late to apologize now. Larry, regaining his composure after the long night and arguments, continued with his remaining audience. I thought the same thing for years, that maybe they had indeed been cursed by it, though he did until his dying day say that it was a chupacabra. Only a chupacabra would do so much damage to chickens and take the goats like that, and only a chupacabra would drain the blood from them. Well, I sure hope it leaves us all alone. I would rather leave it be. Still, I don't know. It just seems to me that it had to be a coyote or a puma, Sandra assumes. They have been known to attack farm animals and people too. Happens all of the time out of some of the trails around here. Larry, you even said yourself there are mountain lions. Cal had his fingers intertwined as he was contemplating the whole picture, trying to search his mind for an answer. That might be, but I am not about to take my chances in making whatever demons or devils are out there angry at us for being here in its territory, and you should want to be careful too, whether you believe in God or not. The fire was now flickering its last flame before becoming just a glow of embers dying in the cold air of the night, the air still heavy and now almost freezing. Larry had grown tired and figured he'd said enough. I think that we should call it a night now, folks. I know we are all tired from our hike, and no worries, just get some sleep and tomorrow eat a good breakfast. It's a long hike back. Sounds good to me. Yep, I'm off to bed. That was one hell of a story, Larry. Thanks, says Sandra. Cal stretches out his arms as he yawns. Good night all, and sleep tight. See you in the morning. Don't let the chupacabra get you. Cal winks at Larry and Sandra before heading to his tent, where he was eager to use the mini heater. Good night, folks. Sleep tight and keep those heaters turned up. Going to be a very cold one. As all three of the remaining party descended into their tents, Sandra was just about to crawl inside, looked out into the night, meeting a pair of red glowing eyes and an unfamiliar shape as it scampered off into the dark. Is she just hallucinating? The story had taken a hold of her, causing her to question her own sanity. The isolated terrain, with the shadowy atmosphere, had given way to the perfect environment for anyone's imagination to run wild. End of Bloodlines Chupacabra Chapter 4 Part 1. Sleep tight, folks. Until next time, good night.